nothing ever really ends in this work, right? On a daily basis, I'm talking to as many council folks, their staff as possible, and really try to convince them or make them believe in this thing that I'm advocating for.
Hi, it's Amanda Phillips.
This is Cheyenne.
And we interviewed Chaz Moore, the executive director and founder of the Austin Justice Coalition, on August 14th, the day after the Austin City Council decided to defund the Austin Police Department by $150 million, about a third of their budget. And so this was a big deal, and we were very excited that we got to talk to him right afterwards.
If anyone has watched interviews with Chaz before, he's very much kind of on mission and very focused about what he's trying to do. And for me, kind of felt this was an opportunity for him to open up more about kind of where his thoughts are, what motivates him, and that kind of stuff. So it was, I felt good that we were able to kind of dig into that stuff with him.
Yeah, we went into some weird places that I was not expecting that we were going to talk about. I found myself just thinking about it throughout the weekends, oh my God, I can't believe we talked about that and that. The one thing I want to bring up is that I forgot to ask Chaz what his birth time was, so I could get his birth chart, which is an astrology thing. Just watch and you'll get it. So anyways, Chaz, I know you're watching this. Please send me your birth chart. It's very important. Or just add me on CoStar. Feel free.
Oh, well, yeah. Y'all check out the episode and let us know what you think. Given the timeliness of this call, I guess I should ask, how are you feeling after yesterday's decision with APD and the City Council?
Of course, I'm excited. I'm glad it's over. There's a lot of back channel conversations that was going on for the last 2 months. So, just a huge sigh of relief that it's just done. Happy that it got done the right way. Glad that the city and the community is ready to take a step in a different direction as we, redefine public safety. And I would even go as far as to say, really unpacking what safety means, right? It's a bunch of racialized context that comes with this safety, especially when you're speaking in America. But, the fact that we are, as a city and as a community, reallocating funds from the police department, which is this deeply, racist institution from its inception. I think it's something that, everybody should be excited for, right? I think Austin joins the handful of other cities that is leading that way, stepping out on, I don't want to say faith, but maybe hope that there's different possibilities when we think about what public safety is and when we reimagine public safety and hope that we get different outcomes that we've been getting by just sending the police everything, right? Because we know when we send police to mental health calls or, small family services that, while the hope is that we get a resolve, right? The outcome is, either death or, a broken family structure because, two partners are engaged in something and the cops come in and now the family is disrupted. So I say all that to say that was a very long tangent to say I'm excited as hell.
You talked about in your response, you kind of alluded to how you're glad it's over. I feel like in any kind of struggle for this, it's a lot of grind work for hopefully in a payoff at a certain moment. Can you talk more about the work that actually goes into it? A lot of people will see you at a rally or a protest or things like that, but don't really understand the day-to-day grind that gets to that success.
I should also clarify, I'm glad the vote is over, but there's, nothing ever really ends in this work, right? So I don't want people to think I can retire now and ride off into the sunset, because that's definitely not the case. But, it's really more about, on a daily basis, I'm talking to as many council folks, their staff as possible, and really try to convince them or make them believe in this thing that I'm advocating for, right? When I tell you last Thursday, we had 2 votes. So you go from 2, then maybe Saturday we get to 4, and then Monday we get to like maybe 8, maybe, and then Thursday we get 11. But in a week's time, that was a lot of conversations, right? To encourage council and help them believe that this was the right thing to do, and show them. I don't know if you all seen it, but on our website, we had so many different like data points to show people why this is a bad, like why policing or investing so much in policing is a bad idea, why police don't really do what you think they do. And then, the hardest part was, and really, huge shout out to like Chris Harris and Emily Garrick and Kathy Mitchell and Suki and Jessica, who put in the time to like go through line by line the police budget, and really pull out some of the things that maybe we should question, maybe some things that we don't really need this. And then we had our own $100 million proposal that we could show city council, like, this is actually a real like thing that you could do if you wanted to. So, outside of talking to the decision makers, the people with power, and trying to convince them, okay, let's try this. I mean, you also have to talk to the community, right? Because a lot of people think that as we fight for the same thing, that we are all aligned, right? Like some people are like defund the police, but not all of it. Some people are like defund the police, take all of it. So I also have to like kind of broker between the two ideologies within the community, to make sure that we can put a package together that kind of satisfies as many people as possible. In education, right? Like you see a lot of people talk about, let's take money from the police and put it in education. And that's not how that works, right? Like school systems and school districts get the money from the state. I get the angst and I get the wish, but it's just like also very quickly government and civics 101, like this is how things operate. Same thing with the Manley thing, right? Like we still want Chief Manley fired. And we know now that city council is not in that position. And we know the person that can only fire him is Spencer Cronk, or he can resign, right? So just really making sure that we are putting out the information, making sure I'm talking to as many people as possible, to make sure we can get as many people on the same page.
Have you tried to put AJC in the position, you said like a broker between these different stakeholders. Have you always wanted to have AJC be in that position, or has that been like a thing of necessity?
No, this is a thing of necessity. I think, that's definitely not in our mission statement, right? But, I think it's just important. And I don't think we're the only groups that do that. But I think it's important that we could, because I get it. I get the people that are over here that's like, let's engage in the system as much as we can to get the changes we desire. And I'm very much probably more leaning, I'm probably in the middle. Then you have the group over here that's just like, let's just burn all this shit down because it all sucks. It's all racist. It's all not good, right? And I also get that. So I get the tension between the two, and I try to like pull these people close to the center and pull these people close to the center, and like let's talk about how we can work through this to get to a means of where we have something new, right? And I think that's really important in activism, in my opinion, right? To like talk about the tension between reform and creating something new, and the tension between even voting, and how that's something that should be highly criticized because of Welcome to America 2020. I think to answer your question, because I'm going on a tangent, it's like that's not something that we aim to do, but at times we see the necessity in doing it. If that answers the question at all.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is like there's and I use like the Democratic Party as an example. Like there's all of these different kinds of people with all different viewpoints and like from all different walks of life in this party, in this group. And then you've got like the Republicans who are like all basically the same person, like all older, usually white, and they all have like the same goal in mind. Like they don't have to like have all these meetings to figure out what to do. They don't have to have all these meetings to like get everybody on the same page. Like they're all already there, versus like progressive groups and groups who are like all about diversity and inclusion, and they have to just deal with so many more different viewpoints and like a wider range of those viewpoints, and they've got to kind of get like this massive movement to like go in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What you said you kind of put yourself in the middle of that spectrum of the issues that you're tackling, as far as like repair the police department versus just burn it all down. Can you talk more about the difficulties in bringing folks with those different perspectives together? Like, how does that process work? Because I think that's something that a lot of activists or leaders of activist groups struggle with, is kind of balancing the, let's say, the moderate approach with the more like pure liberal or pure hyper-progressive approach.
I mean, I kind of want to push back on that, because it's not a process that's unique to activists and organizers. I think we're all part of that process, right? I mean, I think the only difficulty is, not right. Like, trying to figure out how to explain this, because it is kind of difficult to me. Like Chaz himself, me by myself, I have an idea of the world that I want to live in. And it's very easy. It would be very easy for me to do that like tomorrow. Like, I don't need Zoom. I don't need any of this, like all my sneakers and all this shit. I don't need it. I can just unplug and be completely happy and content with life. But if I'm trying to convince other people that this is the way we need to go, like it takes time to get people to like really buy into that vision, because we've all become so inundated and socialized to think we need so much stuff and like these titles and these privileges. Like, we really have bought so much into that that we can't imagine anything else outside of what we've been programmed. And I don't want to say program, but I will say socialized to think. Prime example, right? Like all the people that are, okay, defunding the police, like the world is going to go crazy, crime is going to skyrocket, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, one, it's just not true. Crime universally is going down. Like, it's not a real thing. And then like you look at like the reports of crime going up, like even what they tried to do here in Austin, right? Like, so, if we had one murder in June of 2019 and then we had two in June 2020, statistically you can say, oh my God, the murder rate is doubling. But like from 1 to 2, when you put that in context, it's just like, okay, like, all right, everybody calm down, right? It's not, in the reality of things, it's not that bad. But anyways, like going back to like this world without police, this vision in my mind, I know that there are some good folks, the liberal, most progressive folks, that they want to get there. They're just not ready to get there now, right? And I think a lot of times activists, while some people don't like activists, including myself, like I kind of struggle being labeled that, because a lot of activists, like we come off as if we have all the answers and we have all the solutions, and you kind of leave other people behind that don't jump on board. And it's like, our greatest resource to get to this place where we're trying to go is one another. So we have to take the time out and like, have these oftentimes very emotionally draining, very repetitive conversations about why all the things that we are so ingrained and entrenched in and believe so deeply in are like not needed and so false and so full of harm. because again, I could go do this world by myself, but what fun is it if it's just me, right? So just like, but again, I don't think that's my role or my job as an activist or advocate or organizer, whatever this label people want to call me. I think, again, the difficulty comes in that we as a human society, in a global context, are just not like we are not really ready, in my humble opinion, or maybe we're still afraid of just really trying things in a completely different way, and that's just where I am with that. Like to me, it makes no sense that women still don't get paid equally for doing the same job that men do, and the only reason that we're not fixing that is because we don't want to. Like women still pay tax on menstrual products. That's crazy. So again, the only difficulty is that like we just don't want to. Like we're not willing to struggle together. That's the only difficulty, because I can theorize and talk about this shit all day, but it doesn't mean anything if we're not collectively willing to let that stuff go. Same reason, I talk about white people that say Black Lives Matter. Great. I'm glad you are on that bandwagon with us. However, you can't really mean that if you're not willing to let white privilege go, right? And we get so caught up in this current climate of where we are about everything we're against. Like, oh, I'm against Trump. I'm against everything he stands for. I'm against Make America Great Again. I'm against, racism. And all that is fine and warranted and probably the thinking of a logical person. However, I think we get so caught up in what we're against, we never talk about what we're for. Right? Like we never talk about, like we hate the world today as we know it because it is racist and homophobic and misogynistic, and we should hate those things, but we never take the time to paint the world that we want to live in, right? And I try to do that, and I do it from a aspirational and hopefully an inspirational place, because I live in my mind, I live in a world where Black people can just be and exist, and all the people that's been in the margins can just be and exist and breathe and not have all the trauma that comes with racism and all this other stuff. I live in a world where, we don't treat women like objects and like they're seen as full-ass humans like everybody else. I live in a world where we don't have capitalism and people can still do jobs and labor and not be, demeaned in these low wages that we give them. I live in a world where we don't have money, right? Like everybody can just take care of one another and barter with one another. But again, we've been so socialized to think like literally if money just didn't exist, then our value goes away, our skills goes away. And like, that's just not true. Like I always think about, I'm definitely going on a tangent, so stop me if you need to, but I think about the fact that like somebody's phone bill, right? Like I think people should just have free phones, because like really, like if you don't pay your phone bill, somebody just hits a switch and then you pay it and then they hit another switch and now your phone works again. So like we put money on all these things and it kind of keeps us all in the box and we all working our asses off to make sure some of the 6 people in the world can just continue to be rich. And it's just like we're not willing for some reason to let these concepts go, because money doesn't exist. Like money is not a real thing.
It's just a number on a sheet somewhere.
Yeah, just like race. Race isn't a real thing, but it's also if I ask you to draw me a unicorn, you're gonna draw me a horse with a horn in its head. And although this doesn't exist in real life, because it exists conceptually, we have to deal with it and we have to unpack it and talk about it. But yeah, I think the moment people are willing to struggle together, and it all comes down to that. Like once we realize, and it's so simple, but so hard to do because we've been so drenched in all this bullshit. But once we realize like we're so like intimately connected to one another, I think that's when we'll start seeing a more grand paradigm shift, because I do think we're seeing a shift in the culture and a paradigm shift right now, but I think that's the next step before, the world blows up, because we're not taking care of her either. So,
I mean, I love everything you're saying there. I think I've said in internal meetings at Blue Squad that like, I have this like, I'm a big Star Trek fan. and in Star Trek they like don't have any money, yet somehow they're so all happy. It's like I want to live in that future. But like these concepts are like they're great, but at like the individual level, what is like that first bridge to get them thinking, and thinking, not them being anyone really, whether it be someone who's already aligned or someone who's, really not aligned. Like, how do you get them thinking, not to, like you said, not to be against something, but be for something? What does that initial conversation look like? What kind of conversations have you had with folks that have really helped bridge that gap for people?
I mean, I can't, there's no way for me to answer that question because I'm not the other person, but I can talk about me, right? Like the more I read books and learn about struggle and movements and people in the margins, I just choose to I try to become a better person, right? Like, like here I am, I'm like one of the blackest people I know in terms of like thought and ideology, but I didn't realize that because I'm a man that I still, if I'm not careful, as much as I'm fighting for liberation and a new society, a lot of the man in me was also doused in patriarchy and misogyny, right? So the more I do the work and I'm listening to like queer folks and women of color explain that, and I'm over here swearing that like, oh, I'm not that because, I'm one of the good guys. But then you just listen and you realize like, oh my God, I do kind of ascribe to that mentality and that notion. And me being the type of person I am, I just stopped doing it, right? Like if I know something is like fucked up, I just stop doing it. But that's me, right? That's Chaz's, this personality, and I just listen to people. So I think one way to help move that train of thought forward is just by having a conversation, right? Because there's some people that they think they hate me because they think I represent all that is evil. Because I'm talking about let's get rid of the police and Black Lives Matter and trans lives matter and queer lives matter and everybody should be free. Like we should live in a world with no prisons. Like everybody should be able to go to school free. Like people think they hate me because of that. Because there's no way they can really hate that. I don't think so. But I do know, or I believe in my humble black heart that even though they hate me and they despise me, because they are so in this love-hate relationship with me, they're still listening, right? Like, and I think there's a chance of hope that even if they don't agree or believe in it right then and there, some little nugget or some little thought is going to stick with them, and then they'll hopefully do the work themselves to unpack that for themselves. Because all I can do is just introduce the thought. And I introduce a thought, and then there are moments, like with the police budget and with the police union contract in 2017, where I can show people, if we do organize and fight, we can win. And then when we win, because that's important for a lot of people too, right? Nobody wants to, some people love me just because I say crazy shit, and they just like, I like this guy because he represents something or a train of thought that I do. Some people, include myself, every person that I admire is a winner. Jordan, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Dave Chappelle. I love the great. I love the people that are great at what they do. And sometimes you have to win, right? That's another problem. I don't say problem. And maybe this is just me as an activist or whatever. I think it's important to win. You can't just be preaching and screaming the message, and the message is always great. You have to win. That's how you fuel the movement. People don't want to just come out and advocate and do the city hall thing and never win. You have to win. So I think sometimes it's about showing people results, but I think very simply it's just about having a conversation and inviting people in to have that conversation, and also let people know, like, hey, yes, I'm the guy you see on TV every day. Doesn't mean shit to me because I also don't have any answers. But I do know wherever we're going, I'm going to need you there with me. Like, this is not the Chad show. It's going to take us collectively coming together. And although I think we should do it in person, like physically, I think even if that doesn't happen, I'm basically asking us to collectively come together and mentally rewrite the Constitution, right? Like, let's reframe what this country is about, because we're not like, you know, young folks, you know, people my age and younger, and people that have been in this movement for years, like, we're at a place to where we're not going to allow this country and white people specifically to allow us to stay at this point of stagnation. And then in another breath, talk about make America great again. Like, that has never happened. That statement has never been true. I think America has always been aspirational, and you know, that's a very bold thing to say, because the aspiration comes, you know, at the livelihood of indigenous folks and Black folks and women, but you know, even if, you know, I mean, it's just kind of like the Dick Cheney movie, which was awesome. Although Dick Cheney is a complete asshole, you have to admire his grit, and he was willing to do whatever to be where he wanted to be. And maybe that's like the narcissist and asshole in me, but I think that's what America is. And it's like, okay, you know what? We've done some crazy stuff to get to where we are in the road to where we want to get to. But one, let's stop doing the crazy stuff and the terrible stuff to get to where we want to get to, and let's just have a holistic, collective approach together, so we can actually become a great country that people think we are. It's people across the seas that think America is a great country, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah,
it blows my mind. I'm going on so many tangents, but this is how I think. You know, like, just welcome to the chat show.
No,
because to me, it's that simple. It's that simple. Like, if we want to be better as a society, we can do it tomorrow. But it's like, you just have to be willing to let this shit go. And I think if we let this shit go, what's on the other side of this is beautiful. Like, we hold on to it, like, for what? Like, you know, these people in Austin that are so livid about people that are experiencing homelessness having camps up is fucking crazy to me. And no matter how we you know, like to slice it, we all give into a belief that I have. Like, we need homeless people. Everybody needs homeless people, because it justifies success for all of us, right? Like, even on all three of us, on our shittiest day, right? We can, and we probably have said, once we ride by 7th and wherever, and said, at least I'm not that. And I say we give to this because the human-centered approach is to not have people on the street in America. Like, this should not be a thing. However, if we don't have somebody below us, now we can't say, well, I'm doing better than somebody else. And that's the problem in this country. We all want to be able to say, I'm better than you. We always have to compete. That's why capitalism sucks. And like, that's why that particular notion is something that I hope that we let go at some point, because we have to realize, like, there's no competition. Like everybody's success and everybody's livelihood and everybody's well-being should be connected. But we we don't want that. Like, we just don't want it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with that. I worry that that fight is almost fighting like basic human nature in a lot of ways.
I don't think capitalism is human nature.
Not capitalism, but the need to compete and to, I don't know, maybe establish.
Well, I feel like capitalism is like so much competition and like trying to get more money than the other person, more employees, more. Like, there's definitely drive.
I don't think, and I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not a biologist or whoever studies this shit, but I just, and maybe I'm rarely optimistic that I believe, and granted, there are some anomalies, and I think the anomalies are the people that do the very heinous things, right? Like, I'm talking about the SVU shit, like those type of people. I think those people are anomalies, but I think generally that most people, that we have an innate sense of care for one another and concern. I just believe that. I really do. And I think because of how we've been socialized in this world to think I think it brings out something that's not natural, right? I think if you take off, or if you remove all the filters, and we can just get to a place of like the core of humanity, I think we're so much better than who we are. I just believe it. I don't know. I could be completely fucking wrong, but
have you? I'm kind of curious. Like, have you? Because you said you're a big reader, and I think I saw like on some of your Instagram stuff, the books you're reading and stuff like that. Have you tried kind of looking at other cultures and other kind of like even like archaeological kind of things to see, is it like Western culture that's producing that, or is it like there's a different path that other cultures have proved out?
Not really, man. I haven't been able to read, like, at this point I just buy books to like say I have books, and I'm a collector of books. But I haven't been able to read, like, but I haven't been able to read as much or as broadly as I want. Like right now I'm reading a lot of like restorative justice stuff and a lot of bell hooks and Baldwin. But I can, I think and I'm gonna go do some research about this because I don't want to just make this blanket statement and it not be true. But it's just my thought. I think one, we have to, acknowledge that bad stuff is going to happen no matter the group of people and the culture heritage. Bad things are always going to happen. I do think a lot of the ills of the world, and I love picking on white people because one is it's kind of funny, but it's also true, and it's just something that they have to reckon with. I think white people have to reckon with the imprint and footprints that they have left on this earth. I do think a lot of the ills of the world have came from white folks. I'm not saying like there have been wars between other communities of color, of course, but when you look at like the mass evil, if you will, that has been done, that's normally been done by white folks. And white supremacy is so fucked up because, and I think it's slowly going away because I'm loving to see Black folks and other people of color so aligned with their culture and heritage. So I think at least aesthetically, like we're trying to, I think people are saying white is not the standard of beauty and all that type of stuff. How do you, like when it comes to the philosophy of white supremacy, though, I think that's what we have to eradicate because through white supremacy, one, and the most sick thing about white supremacy, it makes the people that are oppressed want to become the person that isn't ruling, right? Like it makes you want to become like most Black men want to be white men. Like that's a true. Most men of color aspire to be what we think white men are, which is very dangerous. Because with what white men have done historically, rape, pillage, genocide, and take. Like, and they still do this very much today. I saw this white girl talking about this new, I don't know if you know what screw music is, like from Houston, like slow down music.
I'm from Houston, actually.
Yeah, right. So you know what this is. And this white girl was like, she named it something else. She was like, oh, this is when you slow music down. But she didn't talk about the origins of screw music. She was like, this is a new thing that just happened today. I was like, no. I was just like, this is crazy to me, right? So it's just like, but that's also like part of like white supremacist culture. Just like, let's just take and do what we want. And then we, the oppressors, the oppressed, we think the only way to get out of our state of oppression is to overthrow and become those that oppress us. And that's also never worked. Whether, like I learned so much about Indian culture. I stayed with 3 of my good friends when I was in college. They were from Gujarati. And I learned about like, how terribly the British sucked and how they treated, people of Indian descent, or Southeast Asian, I should say. And, so it's just like, yeah, white people just generally suck.
It's actually funny you say that because a lot of Indian, like, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this or whatever, like a lot of Indian culture is about being aspirational to a British sense of how to do things. So like in Calcutta, there's a giant monument to Queen Victoria still there. It's like one of the biggest like tourist destinations in the city. And like I go there, I'm like, this is bizarre. You guys basically have a giant monument to the folks that conquered you. Like, how does that make any sense at all? But it's like the only monument that still exists from that time period, and like they haven't built any new things in the meantime. And it's just the same thing happens there. It's like a kind of fascinating parallel, I guess.
Yeah, and like they did not approve, at least at the time, they didn't approve of my activism, right? They was like, no, you like don't shake things up. Like, just let just let everything play out the way it plays out. Just mind your business, and it's dangerous and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's why like racism and white supremacy sucks so bad, because it's such an evil thing, man. And the way it plays into, again, the mind of people that have been oppressed is just wicked. It's just really wicked.
So I want to rewind the clock a little bit. I think a lot of folks know about.
We went way on the deep end. I apologize.
Like I said, I want this conversation to be as frequent as possible. Like people do interviews and like, they kind of try and stay on point, and you never really get to like understand the person that's being interviewed. Tell me what life was like before AUC, before people knew like who you were. I guess talk about like the formative experiences that led to you wanting to do this kind of work.
I mean, I think it's always interesting when people ask me that question, because, I mean, I'm Black, right? Like, and I'm a Capricorn. So, I think I'm very much, and yes, I'm one of those people that believe in that shit, right? So whoever's listening don't like that, then whatever. But, I've always had this sense of awareness about my surroundings. And like life has came at me very fast ever since I can remember. Like my mom passed away when I was 7. I was raised by my grandmother, who was born in 1935 and is still very much present in my life and FaceTimes me, which is crazy to think my grandma FaceTimes me on an iPhone. And her husband, my grandpa, passed away my freshman, sophomore, maybe junior year in high school. So I've seen death, and now that I look back at it, maybe my mom would still be here today if the access to better healthcare was an option. I grew up poor, but my grandma made sure. And now I look back at it, I was like, oh my God, all the stupid shit that I wanted and asked for as a kid was just so dumb. Like the Jordans and video games, while, my grandma is working, trying to take care of this, this little Black boy who's trying to maneuver through life. So, I just think being raised by a person that has experienced racism, born in the 30s, grew up in Louisiana, and just always let me know that, yes, you are magnificent and you are brilliant. And some people are so afraid of that because of just what you look like. So my grandma, my grandparents both, and my mom, right? Like, my mom was talking to me about the weirdest shit when I was young, like how to use condoms. I was like, what is this lady talking about? And I just think maybe she knew that she wouldn't be here forever. But she told me what it meant to be a Black man and a leader, and always respect your elders and stuff like this. So I was always getting like these things that I didn't quite understand at a very young age. And then when I was 17, I was with the wrong group at the wrong time in high school. And out of like 13 people, many of which actually did the thing that they accused me of, I was one of the 3 out of this group of 13 to 17 folks that got convicted. And that moment was very a moment that I really couldn't process at the time either, because I remember the judge very vividly told me you know what? I know you didn't do this, and I know you were just with the wrong people at the wrong time, but I want to teach you a lesson.
He
So at
straight
17,
up
yes,
like says that in the courtroom.
yes, yes. So you know, at 17, I was like, you know what? That's fair. You know, that's fair. I was with some knuckleheads doing some stupid shit. That's fair. And then I learned very quickly what collateral consequences were. Right? Like, cause I didn't go to jail. Well, I did go to jail. It was this really weird sentence. Like my whole second semester of my senior year, every weekend I had to go to jail because he wanted me to stay out of trouble. And then the day after graduation, I had to spend 2 months in Fort Bend County Jail. Um, which was fun. It was an experience. But I'm, not saying jail is fun. People should definitely stay away because it fucking sucks. But so then, I get out of jail, and now I'm shipped off to the University of Texas. And I'm not ready for this, right? Like, but I'm still trying to process what the fuck just happened to me in the past year, and still really trying to grapple with the fact that I'm here at the University of Texas, but I can't get jobs because of my criminal background. I can't work anywhere. I mean, I can't live anywhere damn near. It was very difficult for me to retain housing when I was younger. Loans and everything was very difficult. So, and then, on top of that, I was on probation for 8 years, right? From 17 to 25, I was on probation. 8 years. And I think if I wasn't on probation, I would have probably not dropped out of college. I probably would have had more fun in college, because you can't do recreational drugs and you're not supposed to drink. I wasn't even supposed to be around bars for 8 years, but through those 8 years, I became a party promoter. That's how I made so much money. And that's how I kind of started sustaining for myself. And then, so all this is happening, and I'm learning how jacked up the system is from a very real sense because I'm dealing with it. I'm just like, you know what? This is not a lesson you teach a 17-year-old kid. This is a lifelong lesson that is really fucked up, right? And then fast forward a little bit, Black Lives Matter. Trayvon Martin was like the thing in me that really made me was like, I stopped party promoting. I think when Trayvon Martin happened, I was like, it has to be
like
more
like an instant thing where like, this is not for me anymore. Or...
No, I mean, I didn't mind it, but I also knew at the time, like right now, I think we've gotten to a place in the movement to where we understand the duality, to where you can do fun stuff and also fight the movement or fight for the movement. But at the time, it was just like people can understand how I was doing both. Right, they didn't take me seriously enough because I was still party promoting. So I was like, you know what? If I have to let this go to show people that we still have a lot of shit that we need to work on as a country, then I can do this later if I want to. But yeah, Trayvon Martin was just like the fire in me, or the alarm clock, like I've been saying, that made me realize, okay, let's get to work. Because even though Trayvon Martin wasn't killed by police, he was killed by somebody that very much wanted to be a police, and that was acting very much in the same mindset and framework of policing, right? Like telling this black body where to go, telling him that he didn't belong here, obey his orders and all this type of crazy stuff. So, and then, Trayvon Martin happens, Black Lives Matter takes off. Now we start seeing all the videos of how cops are treating black folks and people of color. And then, here we are today. It's just like, I'm just trying to fast forward so we can get to this new world. Again, before the world explodes, because we are not taking care of it. So,
yeah, there's a timer on it.
Absolutely. So it's just like, we might as well try to enjoy this shit in harmony as much as we can because our days are numbered. Like, why can't we just get along for like the 5 years we have left?
Do you think we're going to be able to make it to another planet and start new there?
The very, ideal survivalist in me hope so, but also, I pray to God that we don't, because we're just gonna wipe out the entire solar system. because like we in the name of advancement, right? Like we butcher like the things that are naturally here to like take care of us. So it's just like, I don't know. Like if we do, great, but if we don't, that's probably even better, right? Like we've had our one shot. Let's just see where this goes. It's like it's like kind of like The Watchmen, right? Like one good season, then I'm just done. Like that's it. Like no more life after this. We have one season. This particular,
it's got really dark too fast.
This is we are definitely like in the dark timeline now with the shit that is going on this year. But hopefully we can have some good, a few more good episodes, and then just bow the curtain and say, hey, we didn't try as hard as we could, but we tried something, and we'll just be done.
There's some of us who tried really hard, and some others who like didn't do a damn thing, and like this is what we.
Just hey, this is where we are, and that, that's kind of bleak, but just that also helps me kind of navigate the world the way I do, because up until very recently, I was terrified of death. It was just something that it keeps me up at night. Like literally, I sometimes, not too much anymore, but I would think about. Like my grandma passing away, like my grandma is like the very like core of my existence in this moment. Just like I can't imagine a world where she's not here, right? And like it just makes me incredibly sad when I think about that. I would like just like a crazy person just up crying in my room sometimes just thinking about this. And even me, like I'm afraid of, like I do not want to die. Or I didn't want to die until I watched this really awesome show, Midnight Gospel. And it was an episode where he interviews his mom and they talk about death. And I was just like, oh man, like, okay, I get it now, right? So as I'm both living and dying at the same time, like we all are, how can I get the most bang out of this buck? And for me, that's trying to make this experience, this life, for Black people and for all the people that have been pushed to the margins, and these margins that we've created. Like these margins are not real; they don't really exist. But how can I erase these margins and allow us to again just really appreciate this moment, because that's all life is, right? It's a very brief moment in the grand scheme of things. And just like we don't have time for all this other little stupid shit we're doing, like all of these things that we're, racism and cops killing folks because they actually think they have the right to do so, and cops having the only privilege and duties of public safety, and like we have to stop doing that, right? Because we don't have that much time. So. Yeah, I feel like we're getting really bleak here. I don't want people to listen to this and be like, man, what the fuck are they talking about?
I'm so glad you brought up that episode from Midnight Gospel, because you were talking about your grandmother and I was like, I wanted to bring it up, but I'm like, I don't know if that'd be like sensitive or whatever, but like, it's so good. I ugly cried like through most of that episode.
Absolutely. I cried so much. You should watch it.
You need to watch it, Cheyenne. It's like this narrator is basically just talking to his mom. Okay. And like it goes exactly where you don't want him to go. And like he's talking about like life without her. And he's like having a conversation with her about like what it's gonna be like without her. And I'm not gonna cry. But it's amazing. And then honestly, it did the same for me. It made me feel better. I have a son who's 6 years old. And so like I was thinking about my mom and like him, and it was great. It was great, and it helped a lot.
I'm gonna move on to something else before Amanda breaks down.
Yeah, sorry. Moms.
Okay, so you were saying life is coming at you fast through high school and college. Can you talk about like the initial kind of steps, if there were any, that led to the formation of Austin Justice Coalition?
Just so we've been around for 5 years. March made 5 years, and just really looking at, because before AJC, I had led a lot of rallies and protests. And then for me, again, like the Capricorn in me, I'm just like, didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but here I am getting my first Hamilton represent. I'm just never really satisfied, right? And thousands of people would come to these marches and protests and rallies, but then I realized that we hadn't changed anything in a very real, pragmatic way, which I'm open for the debate and dialogue with that, because I understand that maybe a mind shift occurred for some folks. Maybe the conversation had been elevated, but I was very much into, and I'm still very much into, making sure that while we operate within a system that I absolutely think needs to be revamped, remodeled, retwisted, and just redone, we have to make sure that we have things in place as much as we can that are going to protect the people in it, right? So I'm very much intrigued and by policy, right? Because policy and laws are like our moral agreement. It's like our social contract for the most part. So it's like, yes, great, everybody showed up to the march, but I think we need to be involved in policy making, because we also can't let people that are not experiencing the same things that we're experiencing be the guiding hand on the policies, because they don't know, right? You have to have the people with lived experiences come in and use that lens to help guide the policy and legislation. So we did this huge march. I think it was like for Trayvon Martin or something. I can't remember. And then I realized, you know what, like, this is fine and this is great, and everybody's going to keep, because this was like 5 years ago, where everybody was doing, like, it was like a march every week. It was just like, on your calendar, I'm going to the march. So, and I was like, you know what, people are going to do this, but we need to carve out something else to make sure we have either a place at the table, a seat at the table, or build our own table and have them and kind of make them come sit at our table and listen to the things that we want. And that was really it. We got started in the back of the Victory Grill before it was, now it looks amazing. I'm sure somebody like was breathing asbestos when we were there, because it was just like, it was, I think it was legally closed down, but they were allowing us to come in and organize. And it's been perfect ever since. And when I got started, I wanted it to be like Wakanda. I wanted it to be like, I wanted AJC to be this all black, we were going to be all black shit, like berets, maybe like black leather jackets. That's what I wanted us to be. But then I woke up and realized I lived in Austin. It's not easy to find a lot of black folks here. So I had to let that go very quickly. But then I also realized, like, doing the work, that, doesn't make sense for only black people and only people of color to be doing this work. You have to invite white people in, because the people that experience the most privilege, I think they have to do the heavy lifting, right? Like, I don't call myself a feminist, because, I think that's a very man thing to do, just to like take shit that doesn't belong to you. But I do think men should be the biggest advocates for equal pay and women's rights, because we're the reason they don't have any, right? Or we're the reasons that we're the obstacles in the way for women's rights on everything. Like, when it comes to reproductive justice, men are opening their mouths, and most of us have no idea how the woman anatomy works. So it's just like, and I think it's prudent upon men to come in and have those conversations, do the heavy lifting. Same thing with like race. I think white people, like I said earlier, I'm glad you're against racism, but if you're not doing anti-racist work, and where we're like unraveling and undoing racism and removing it from our institutions, then, like, what are you really doing? So, I kind of, and I don't want people to, like, please don't send me a letter, whoever's going to listen to this, because I'm not saying I'm this person, but one of my favorite people in the Black Panther Party was Fred Hampton, because he had a rainbow coalition approach, right? Like we need poor Black folks, poor white folks, poor Asians, poor everybody to understand that this is a collective struggle. And I think that's what we turn into, and I'm grateful for that. We have a beautiful rainbow coalition of folks from all different walks and expertise in life, and we are literally crazy enough to think we can change the world. So
you talked a little bit about this, but I'd like to learn more about how AJC is right now versus kind of how you thought it was going to be when you first started. How did that change occur? Maybe like what things were surprising in that evolution? If you could kind of just go into that a bit.
I think the core of what we wanted to do has remained constant. I don't think that's ever changed. We wanted to come in and be a force in the policy arena here on the local and state level. And I think the only thing that's changed over the years is that I think we've become like a legitimate, like, people listen to us, right? I think people are willing to see our opinions and how we feel about certain things. As opposed to 5 years ago, it was like, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking to me, right? But now, after being
that, like, got people to listen to you, like, what was there like?
I think the police union contract. I think that fight in 2017, because that still is the first and only time a police union contract has been voted down in the country. At least, my knowledge as of today, August. Oh my God, 2020. Whatever today is, like, that has still not happened. Where advocates have came out and railed against a police union contract, and it was unanimously voted down. I voted down, period. So I think after that, and my mentors who had been doing this for years had kind of said, hey, well, if you really want police, I think they were just kind of like, joking around. It's like, if you really want change, then you got to go fight the police union. We was like, okay, what does that look like? And they was like, what? And then they told us what that fight looked like, and then we did it. And it was like, all right, good luck. And, nobody thought we were going to win that fight. But for 18 months of my life, while I'm bartending, getting home at 4 a.m. and then going to a meeting at 8 a.m., we did this massive campaign to really build support around that. And, still one of the most beautiful days of my life, December in 2017, and when we had that special meeting, and it was like 9 hours, and we got the vote.
Yeah. I read the article about that fight, and in it you talked about how you were getting people to attend the actual meetings and hearings and stuff like that. Can you talk about the work, or was it difficult to convince people to actually put in that work, to attend those meetings and like put in all that kind of time that was necessary? Because I think in the article you attributed that to being like a key reason that they actually had to look at the contract and change things.
I don't know. I think it was easy to once we started talking to people, it was easy to get them to get on board. I think the hardest thing was getting as many people on board, right? Because we did this at one point. We did this citywide district tour where we had an event in each district to talk about why the contract was bad and it needed to go, or why it needed to be voted down. So I think that was tiring. But once we started explaining to people why this wasn't a good idea, it was it just made sense. I think the hardest part and the most different thing about what we do compared to other groups in town is we just don't say this is bad and we don't need it. No, say no. Like we for the most part draw up a pretty solid argument for any position that we have, and it's really hard to argue against it because we come with data, we come with facts, we come with like all the things, and I think sometimes that's not hard. It just takes a little time to like build that out. Mm-hmm. But in my experience, the more we are able to have all that information available, people jump on board because it just makes sense. We make it make sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Like y'all's social media, by the way, is fantastic. And the emails and like I heard about y'all through Kate, who like works at Blue Squad, and she was like, if y'all want to like stay up to date, like y'all should follow Austin Justice Coalition. And like it's like I shared it with my friend group and now they're sharing it. And it's just like y'all condense the information in such a way that it's like really easy to understand. And you're like, whoa, that doesn't make sense. And so you can just, like you're like, cool, I'm going to call city council because I know what's going on and I know it's not cool.
Well, thank you for that. I will let them know.
So now with the big decision that council made, I guess this is probably an obvious, almost cliche question, but like, what's next? What are the next steps forward?
I think this is where, I put it back in the hands of the community, right? I think that's up to us, right? I think we now have to define what these alternatives to policing look like, what things we want to see the city invest in. I tell people, that's why when I said earlier, like, I'm glad this is over, I'm glad the vote is over. But, like literally Monday is the first meeting we have with the Reimagined Public Safety Task Force. Yeah. And I think we have like 3 meetings in this month alone. So I don't want anybody, listen to this, and people can listen to this 6 months from now because it's going to take a year, probably a year and a half for us to have these conversations. I don't want people to get caught up in the moment of victory, which was last night, because it's not even like a full victory, right? It's like if you play a Mortal Kombat and you won the first round, you still have another round. So it's just like until it's over and you see finish him, just stay engaged in the fight and don't put the controller down. I think people just have to stay engaged and stay involved because one thing I do feel is that it's easy to complain about the system, absolutely, but it's also very easy to complain about the system when you don't get involved. And I think, like I was talking to this guy the day of the vote, and he was like, well, I don't think city council is going to vote for the budget, and that makes me sad. I was just like, well, why? He was like, because that's how the system works. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm already knowing, right? Like, we had 11 votes on Tuesday, so like I know my shit is gonna pass. But it's just like, and I asked him, had he talked to any of the city council members or city manager? He was like, no. I was like, well, so you criticize the system, but you don't actively engage in it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. And again, maybe this is just like the optimist in me, or maybe I have too much belief in the system. But I have belief in the system, and I feel like I can criticize it more, and I can even use it as a talking point to say, maybe the system doesn't work because we've all tried and they just don't listen. But I don't understand just criticizing it and not trying to do anything about it. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. But then also, I think, like, there's no way this budget vote would have happened without the protests in the street, without the big protests we did at HT. And I think it's important for us to stay engaged moving forward because, if you don't stay engaged, this $150 million proposed cut can dwindle very easily, right? So we have to like stay on top of city council and the mayor to make sure like this actually goes all the way through. Because the moment you stop looking, it's just done.
Yeah. What are your plans for keeping people engaged, like having that sustained activity for the actual, like you said, like the actual change to occur?
I think, of course, always sending out updates, maybe some more jingles. We made the Manly jingle, which I think was hilarious. Yeah, it's like, that's probably the most It's the best thing I feel like I've done so far.
On that, I was actually
we've done, yeah.
I was watching like an older interview or something you did, and at least in that video, it kind of felt like you had a working relationship with Manly. And I mean, tell me if I'm like off base here, but like you put out that jingle, that can't be the case anymore. Like,
yeah, I think it's safe to. Yeah, I haven't talked to him. The last time we talked to Chief Manley was when we were doing our weekly COVID updates.
okay.
And we had all the like it was the mayor, city manager, all the department heads, and we had them there to talk about how the police department was handling things amidst COVID, because they had like the like mask tickets or whatever, so we wanted to see if they were enforcing that, blah blah blah. Since then, I have not talked to the guy, so but I still think he's a great guy. I've always said that. I've said repeatedly, and they never play it on the news interviews when they ask me. There's like, what do you think about Chief Manley? I start out literally every time saying the same thing, in which I think he's a good guy. I think he will, if you go on vacation, he will water your plants and feed your cat and maybe cut your grass. Like, he's that good of a guy. Brian Manley is, but Chief Brian Manley fucking sucks. And he's a detriment to the police department. And like we said in the video, you can't have visionary change without visionary leadership. And he's just not the guy for the job in the current time that we're in. And, I mean, maybe one day when, we're a little bit older, we can go drink a beer some way and, listen to the song. Because the song is funny. He has to admit that shit is fucking funny.
It might take a while to admit that.
Yeah, but I could just imagine some of like his assistant chiefs and patrol officers just like walking by humming that song, right? Like, could you imagine?
They've all seen
Everyone's
it.
seen
There
it.
has to be like a few who are like, it's actually like pretty damn good.
I'm gonna ask like a few random like personal questions. So again, I was creeping on your bios and your Instagrams. So I think in your bio you put you are a proven foodie. So I want to know what proven foodie means first.
So first of all, somebody wrote that, and the more I look at it, I'm just like, I really need to change this. But like earlier on, like in my Instagram, I used to just like post food. Like, I love food so much. And I'm doing keto right now, so I miss a lot of the food that I thoroughly enjoy. But once I stop doing keto, I'm gonna explore some more. But I just love food. I think food is a glue, man. I think it brings folks together. I think it's stories in food. Like culturally, again, once I found out what vindaloo was, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm Indian, because like I love all of this shit: chicken tikka masala, butter chicken, biryani, like. And like even like halal, right? Like, I think a lot of people in American culture think like halal is like I think a lot of us think halal is just like the rice and the meat, but like halal is like actually in
halal food is awesome.
Yeah, right. So
I have like a lot of thoughts about Austin food culture, particularly when it comes to different races and stuff like that. So. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? Where does Austin food culture stand? Where does it need to improve?
I mean, so it's definitely like this pop food culture, right? Like the and I love. This is not a good example, but I'm just because I love the guy, I love the owner, Wu Chow. Like, Wu Chow is delicious, but it's like it's like if you're not a Wu Chow type establishment, you don't really get the love and appreciation. Like, it's a taco truck right here on Riverside. This lady speaks no English, and it is, I think, the best tacos in the fucking city, hands down. And it's a lot of little places like that doesn't really get the shine. Like, I think Franklin's barbecue is overrated, and it's better barbecue. I think Jay Lenardi's barbecue on 12th is amazing. I still think Sam's is good. I think Love Barbecue is really good. But yeah, I think we need to be careful that we just don't like highlight the big fancy ones, because I mean those places are good. I think what's the Italian restaurant that I like? I think Red Ash.
Red Ash. Good.
Red Ash is like beautiful. And it's delicious. It's one of my favorite places to eat. But also like, how do we highlight, like Clay Pit is good to me. Is it the best Indian food in town? I don't think so. But I mean, it's just like, I think you have true foodies that are gonna eat everywhere, as we should. But then you have like, like the eater folks that are just gonna highlight the high end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think we need more true foodies to highlight the things that we're missing. Like Casa Colombia is really good to me too, but we don't really talk about them.
Yeah, they're always there. 7th Street.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the last time I ate there. Okay, wait. What's your like go-to COVID takeout place? Like, I would like secrets.
Man, it's really just been wings. I love wings so much. That's my thing. And wings are keto friendly, so I'm really thankful to Beyonce for that. But my go-to is oh my God, what is the name of this place? I'm gonna pull it up. It's this Colombian place actually, and it is just like so good. It's not Casa Colombia though. But other than that, it's this place called, I think, Longhorn Daiquiris. It is Casa Colombia. See, it's my first restaurant when I put it up.
It's like, this is what you want.
Casa Colombia is what I've been eating, and also Peach Tortilla. This is also a really good place. Peach Tortilla is really, really good.
Cool. I need lunch, and that's partially why I'm asking how that's going.
So then, like, what do you do for an escape? Like, when you're not, heads down on the work, what? Got it.
This is it.
Okay.
This is the thing that keeps me comfortable and sane. It's probably killing me at the same time, based on who you ask. Some people think hookah is very dangerous. I feel like I'm in good health, but hookah, I love a good drink with friends. Call of Duty, shoe shopping. Like, I'm a sneakerhead for sure. I just got some shoes in today that I'm excited. Music, of course. Like, music keeps me sane.
Any new artists that you've discovered?
Actually, yeah. It's this artist Chica. She's awesome, man. She's a female rapper. This young lady, I don't know if she's young or not. She looks young. Kirby. She's also awesome. My favorite artist right now, though, is Moses Sumney. He has a beautiful fucking voice.
What was that last bit?
Sumney, Sumney.
Yeah.
He has a song called Incantation and Doom, or Doomed. And I just fell in love with him ever since. Yeah. And movies, of course. Like, I love, like, every day as I drift off into slumber, it's either Frasier or The Office.
Frasier. My wife, actually, my wife is a big Frasier fan. We've watched every season of Frasier like 6 times.
Yep. I have to be like on like the complete rewatch, like number probably like 15. It's just a good show. It's such a good show.
It's very like it's one of the like the most kind of has done the best as far as like sitcoms in history, but it's also like the most underappreciated, I feel.
Yeah, it's smart to me. I don't know why I like it so much, but I just think and I think I see a lot of myself in Frasier, right? Like this guy that gives really good advice but doesn't take it until, of course, like the end of the episode, he realizes like, oh. But I mean, I just really like the show. My favorite episode is the one where he does the self-evaluation. With he gets the Lifetime Achievement Award, and he has like a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Like that episode is just like really, it just hits home for me.
Cool.
I'm sure I'll be there in a couple of years.
Yes. I just want to be in like a Seattle penthouse, just away from everything. Like I go into my radio show once a day, do my thing, and then I go home with my dog and my old dad.
Right.
That's the dream.
I think they were talking about bringing it back, but I can't even imagine it without
the dad, Martin.
Yeah.
It was the most wholesome part, because otherwise it's just Frasier, who can be a douche. Like he's smart.
Oh, sure.
Like
Talking about, so my wife is watching Perfect Strangers now. Like that's the Frasier replacement at the moment.
I'm writing that down.
And I was explaining to her, like, you know, the how Balky wouldn't be that funny if Lenny wasn't there, because he's like the straight man. And it's like, we're like, wait, does Frasier have a straight man? Like, I guess it's Martin, but it's weird because it's not a main character. So it has like I was like, and then I started getting into like comedic structures of a Frasier and like how it works. And I was like, anyways, yeah, that's how I spend my downtime, analyzing film structure.
Yeah, man, you wouldn't believe some of the rabbit holes I went down with Frasier. Like, because one thing I didn't notice until like maybe 2 years ago was that some of the jingles in the very beginning were different. So I was like, so now when I listen to every episode, I try to see how many different jingles there are. You know, I look up every classical piece in the series.
Really?
Frasier is the reason I love classical music.
Interesting.
I have a Frasier classical music playlist.
Wow. Okay.
That's how. Yeah.
I told my wife I met a bigger Frasier fan than her. So
if there was like a Frasier like trivia, I'm sure I would probably do really, really well.
Yeah. Can you sing Martin's rendition of the theme song? You know what I'm talking about? Where they like he has to like create like his own theme song within the show for his radio show.
Oh yeah.
Martin like the winning one.
It's like deep trivia.
I can sing it, but I'm not. Yeah. I know the words. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let's close it out here.
Wait, hold on. Before we do that, I just remembered something that it was like I told a few people that I was like going to be talking to you today, and I was like, what do y'all want to know? And literally all of them, it was only 3, but still all of them were like, when is the next protest like going to be organized by them? Do y'all have?
So we are not, I don't know if we're going to do a protest. I mean, because protests are like, the way we view them, I mean, they have to be used to, like, we just don't want to protest. But I think our next big event is going to be like, so we're going to do a block party. And I've seen, I watched Insecure season 4, and it's a few episodes where Issa Rae's character is putting this community block party together, and I think that's the next big thing we want to do. Highlight local artists, local food vendors, and also, you know, talk about the next steps and things that are needed and blah 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 blah. So I think that'll be the next big thing. Which, I mean, I guess it's a form of protest, just with music and stuff. So that'll be hopefully in October, since no ACL.
Yeah. Like, is there like do y'all have numbers where it's like, if this is this, then we'll do it? Is there like I just want to know when it's going to happen, so I'm like ready for it.
You know, I think we're planning for October, and I think we're going to do it regardless, right? If 6 people show up, then, you know, we'll rock out. If 6,000 people show up, you know, even better. But yeah, just something that we've been talking about that we want to do. Just like, you know, shut the street down and have a block party.
Do you know which street? Are y'all like trying to get permits and stuff? Is it going to be one of the Black Austin streets?
Yeah, so we're thinking about really doing it at the intersection of 12th and Chacon. Just really like, yeah, just have it right there. You know, I mean, if we need a permit, we get a permit. You know, a lot of people think we get permits for our protests, and we don't. Like, a lot of people think, like, you know, I've never once got a protest for, a permit for a protest. I just go do it. And I think I built, a name for myself to where the city recognizes the type of work that I do and how I do it, that they just kind of work with us. But yeah, you know, just one of those things. People was like, oh, AJC is always doing like stuff by the books, whatever. Like people still to this day think we get paid by the police as we are advocating to take all their money away. So you know, whatever. I can't control everything.
Okay, so last couple of questions here for you. I guess first one is, you talked earlier about it's not enough to be against something, but be for something. So what does Austin look like if AJC achieves all its goals?
I mean, well, one, I wouldn't have a job, which would be awesome. You know, I mean, like ideally, it's a world where everyone can feel safe. Everyone can again just be and exist, no matter what they are, like what they look like, who they are, how they identify. You know, it's an actual community, right? It's not the progressive haven of the South for some. It's, you know, the progressive haven of the South for us all. You know, everybody's housed. Everybody has a job that they enjoy and like and love. There are no people on the streets, and if there are people, I mean, some people like living on the land, and if they choose to do that, they are not ridiculed. Nobody, you know, turns their nose down at those people. You know, women get paid equally and probably more, right? When you talk about equity, I think women should get paid more for like at least 100 years to balance out the pay gap. You know, our schools don't have police officers. You know, there's no rich side of town, right? Like everybody's in community with one another. You know, I mean, if people are going through mental health crises, we don't send cops. We send people that can help them calm down. We don't send people to jail because they have a substance abuse or drug abuse problem. We help them heal. Like stuff like that, you know, like more green spaces, more art, more music from people of color. You know, I-35 is revamped and remodeled and refixed. We have a valuable transportation system. Hopefully that happens in November. Yeah. We have, you know, diversity and equity in our boards and our nonprofits and in our big corporations. You know, it's just a good time, man. It's like, you know, Nakia, who's the co-host of our Wednesday specials, talked about what liberation looks like to her. And she's like, you know, it's this Black party where people are like, you know, eating brisket tacos and, you know, there's music playing and people have, you know, there's a guitar and, you know, kombucha and like mimosas, like that's the world I want to live in, right? Because I think that's what we're here to do. I think we're here to like coexist and co-create together and be in harmony. I just really believe that. And, you know, I think we'll get there. I just think we can get there a lot faster if we stop doing all this stupid shit. And, you know, I think we can get to a place to where we can focus on things that matter, like finding cures for diseases, and having, you know, the best professional and holistic medicinal approaches to things, and everybody has access to like education and, you know, all these type of things. I mean, that's what in the grand scheme of things, that is what we are strategically, at times, a lot of times through AJC, working to build, right? We may not come out and say all those things because, you know, I don't think we have to. And if you say that, the way the system is set up, they'll just kill it. But if we strategically work through that lens and through policy to build that world, then hopefully that's where we can end up.
Yeah, I mean, all that sounds good to me.
I'm there. I'm ready for brisket tacos. All of it.
Cool. I think we should leave it at that. So thank you so much, Chaz, for joining us. I feel like I learned a lot, and I have more to learn, I think. So give me some more stuff to learn. So not just the Frasier stuff, but other things too. So yeah, thank you so much, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank y'all, man. This was, I know it went on a lot of tangents, but I promise you something that made sense is in there somewhere. You just got to dig for it.
So what did y'all think about that episode? For me, this is like our second episode, right? So I'm still learning a lot about how to interview people in the best way. There were so many things going through my head as we were talking to Chaz that I wanted to ask, and I'm trying to like pay attention to what he's saying, kind of stay in the moment, but also like get that hook in for the next question. So yeah, anyone who has like tips on how to do that better, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. But I love the conversation. I love that we could kind of dig into all sorts of different topics that I expect Chaz doesn't really get to go into. He probably doesn't get asked like what your favorite Frasier episode is. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, what did you think, Amanda?
Yeah, I thought it was really great. I loved how he just like went off. It felt like he had a lot of things that he's been holding back on maybe, and like he doesn't usually get to just talk about with people. And so that felt, at the end of the interview, he was like, this was really refreshing. Like, thank you guys for doing this. And like, that was amazing. Just like, it felt like a really great conversation with a friend. And if you guys have any questions for people that we interview in the future, definitely like reach out to us and let us know. We're going to be like announcing people as we like get this going. And so you guys can give us input into what you want us to ask. And on to the next one.
Cool. All right. See you on the next episode.